there's a lot of people that have been walking away from Christianity and walking away from the church. But for some of the people walking away from Christianity and the church, that doesn't mean that they desire to walk away from Jesus. Now, how can we reconcile that? What is happening in the Christian realm today, at least in America? Today we want to talk about this. We want to look at something that's really been happening throughout the history of Christianity, but really prevalent over the last few years, and that is coming up now. What's up, everyone? I'm Reynaldo Ramos with VineMedia, and today we want to talk about faith deconstruction. For some people, it's a buzzword, it's the popular thing. For other people, it's what, people claim Christianity, influencers or TikTok or whatever, and they kind of go under these umbrellas. I learned a new term in this whole process called ex-evangelical. People that come from the evangelical world, walking away from it, pastors, leaders, worship people, just a bunch of things, right? And so this is deconstruction. This is faith deconstruction, and it's happening everywhere. Now, what is it, right? And in this short video, it's going to be really hard to get into the depths of everything, right? But deconstruction is nothing new. First and foremost, deconstruction is nothing new. I know people want to paint it as something new, but it is not new. If you really go to the core of it, it is questioning or challenging a worldview. It actually comes from philosophy. We don't have time to get into all that. But in this case, when we're talking about faith deconstruction, we're talking about questioning and challenging the Christian worldview. I know for some people that statement is super scary. That statement is like evil and all that stuff. And I think that therein lies a big issue in this whole topic and within this whole conversation. But essentially, that's what it is. It is questioning and challenging the Christian worldview. For a lot of people, most of the people that I've encountered, it's people that are not doing it from an outside perspective. They are doing it from having a background within the church, having a background in Christianity. And again, this is not new, and it's not just a phase. It's not simply going to disappear. This is something that has happened, is happening, and will continue to happen. Like I said, leaders, pastors, worship leaders, artists, a bunch of people are deconstructing the faith. And sadly, not for all people that do this, but for many, the deconstruction leads to a denouncing of Christianity and a walking away from the faith. What sparks this is really quick. I grew up in the early 2000s in high school and in college. I was a hip hop head prior, and so if you were Christian in that time frame and you liked hip hop, and even if you didn't, you probably have heard of the Cross movement. It was a hip hop rap group that did Christian hip hop, and they did things different because at this time, Christian hip hop really wasn't anything really that big or anything, to be honest, really that good. And but the Cross movement did something really, really awesome. They did good music, one, but they also did good music that was theologically sound. These were guys. This group of guys were in Bible college. They were seminarians. They were leaders and pastors, or training up to be leaders and pastors. And so they were awesome. And one of the guys that was part of the Cross movement, not as known, but if you knew the group, you knew who he was. It was Fanatic, great lyricist, tremendous mind. And just in the past couple of weeks, he put out a video denouncing Christianity. Now, what does that mean? I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to go to his particular details, but this is the world we're living in right now, where people that have grown up in church, people that have been pastors and leaders, people that have gone to seminary, are coming to the point where they're struggling with Christianity. Now, the question becomes why? Why is this happening? How do we get here, right? And I just want to offer my opinion on three reasons why I think this has happened really quickly. First is church hurt. I think this is a big, big issue. This is people that have placed their trust in pastors and leadership and church community, and those pastors, leaders, and church and that church community has let them down. I do not want to discount someone's painful experience within the church. I've been around the church long enough to know that church hurt is real, that church hurt it cuts so deep. And I think church hurt is a big thing when it comes to pushing people to questioning what this whole thing is about. What is Christianity about? What is the church about? And so I think that's a really, really big issue. And I think that's a really, really big reason that's leading people to deconstruct. The second thing, and this is a little bit more recent, I would say in the last 4 to 5 years, and that's politics. Now, I'm not saying that politics has only been an issue for 4 or 5 years. This has been an issue within people of faith for centuries. But I would say in this current culture that we're living in, that's leading people to deconstruction, I think politics is really, really big. I think, and this is again my opinion, I think the Christian church in a large scale, the evangelical church in a large scale has married a political party. And I think we've gone wrong there. And I think we have to be very, very careful to not mix political ideologies with Christian teaching and Christian theology and following Jesus. I think while there may be overlap with some of those things, one is not the other. And so we got to be very careful. And I think a lot of churches and a lot of pastors have mistaken politics for Christianity and have put that stuff together, and that's really rubbed people the wrong way. And the last thing, and I think this is a big one, which spouts from the previous two, and I think it's just bad theology. I think people have been under bad teachings, and I don't know, for some it might be just really incompetence, for some it might just be ignorance, but there's so much bad theology, so much bad teaching. And now that we have technology to just inundate us, really bad theology and bad teaching is really, really flooding our churches and our pulpits. And I think this is really important. A side note on that, I believe that Jesus deconstructed bad teaching and bad theology, because he said things like, "You've heard it said," and he would say it, and then he says, "But I say this." He's correcting bad theology, correcting bad teaching. He's trying to have his listeners and followers deconstruct what they think they know about the scripture and point them in the right direction. So I go to that to come to this. What do we do as Christ followers? What do we do as believers? If you're listening to this and you're deconstructing and wrestling, I pray that you continue that wrestling match. And I'm going to give you a point here in a second. But for those of you that may not be deconstructing or don't know what it is or have an issue with it, right? What do you do, right? I'm going to give you a couple things. One is I think we need to listen, understand, and empathize with people. I think Christ calls us to love one another, and I think we do a really bad job at that. And we really want to argue, and we really want to win arguments, and we really want to, really plant our foundation on ideology and not on Christ and not on the Word. And so I think that's really, really important. The next thing is we have to understand where people are coming from. We have to understand people's backgrounds. We have to understand people's experiences and not just discount them. Deconstruction is not a bad thing. So again, if you're dealing with this, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's heretical or sinful or evil, right? And I don't necessarily think it has to mean that you're losing faith or you're walking away from Jesus. But I will say this, I think deconstruction can be extremely dangerous in isolation. And so I pray and hope, if you're dealing with that, pray and hope that you can find people around you that you can have honest, open, and vulnerable conversations with about these things, and hopefully not just deconstruct and leave it at rubble, but begin to reconstruct with at least one major focus. And that's the last thing I want to give a piece of advice for those of you that are deconstructing, and for those of you that aren't but are wondering what you could do. And that's this: return to Jesus. That's it. That's as simple as it. It's not about rules. It's not about a checklist. It's not about all the other stuff we've made it to be. And Christianity has done this. And this, again, is not, it's not anything new. Martin Luther deconstructed when he posted that 95 Thesis on the church door. That was deconstruction. That was him saying, this is not the way things are. He was questioning. He was looking. He was saying there has to be something better and something new. And this is what it's all about. Understanding that it's all about Jesus. It's not about the other stuff. Right? It's not about the other stuff. And I pray that our churches would understand it, that our leaders would understand it, and not just push people to the side. I want to just leave you with a couple of scripture verses. John 14:6 says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. This is Jesus speaking. John 8:12 says, I am the light of the world. And Matthew 7 says, ask, and it will be given. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be answered. And so I pray that we would return to Jesus, because I think that's the only way to get all this really back, right? All this to where we should be. And so I just pray, whether you're deconstructing and that's where you are in your faith journey, I pray that you would push through. Don't do it in isolation, and return to Jesus. And if you're not, and if you're part of the church, and maybe this is a conversation that you don't like, I would say return to Jesus. Maybe you're making it about something that it's not supposed to be about. I pray that you receive this well. We would love for you to hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, if you find any value in what we do. We make weekly videos. Welcome to VineMedia, and we desire that you just stay connected to Jesus. Keep the main thing the main thing. And so we would pray that you would stay connected to the vine that is Jesus. And we will see you next time.